I spent so many years in my career chasing the next highest salary, the next IT certification, the next job title. And each time I would accomplish a goal or a new milestone of success, I would just keep moving the goalpost further down the road because I just had to keep going until I, felt felt like I was succeeding, until I felt like, I made it to the top, And what ended up happening was I pushed myself so hard that I kept hitting a wall until one day I finally asked myself, I took a step back and realized how hard I had been working to succeed and to win, at life. And I finally asked myself, you know, what are you working so hard? Why are you're working so hard for this life that you don't really even want? It's the path that was kind of laid out in front of you, and you just took it and ran with it, right? Without really asking yourself, is this really the path that, path to success that I want to take? So that's what I want to talk to you about in today's video. The moment I kind of realized that I was succeeding at a life that I didn't really want, and what I decided to do about it. So let's get into it. So the motivating factor behind my never ending pursuit to get to the next level, you could say a bit of hustle culture, but it's also a part of, IT culture to get certifications. The certifications, they validate your knowledge and experience, and with whatever career path within IT that you take, right? And so that played a lot into my, the drive to continue to get the next level certification, right? Is heavily on, that culture, because it was kind of like, you're not working on getting this. Well, I don't know, you're going to be stuck doing this job forever unless you start working on this certification, or you need to get this so you can try to get this job, right? It was a lot of that, and so that, of course, coupled with just the desire to earn more money, right? Especially when you come in at entry level, entry level positions, they don't make very much. And I was a bit older, entering into the IT career field. So I definitely had a need to make, more money. So those were the two driving factors initially. And then a little bit later in my career, after discovering the FIRE movement, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, that really kind of was a catalyst for me to really aim for the stars and shoot for higher salaries, those six-figure salaries. Because one thing that I learned, in learning about the, FIRE movement, is what the main goal that you want to achieve with FIRE is increasing, the gap between, what you earn and what you spend. And the wider that gap is in between, the more you can save and invest, so that you can become financially independent sooner. So that ultimately ended up being the real driving force to catapult me, from 5 figures into the six-figure salary mark. So those were the things that were driving me, right? Outside of the fact that I am a high performer, a little bit of an overachiever, right? High functioning individual. I'm able to, especially once I get kind of fixated on something, especially if it involves learning, that's one of my favorite things. I definitely enjoy learning stuff. But if I can learn something and it could be beneficial for my career, once I made up my mind to do it, it's getting done, and I'm going to attack that goal until I get it, right? So that's, what the drive was. And I was constantly going at the detriment of how I actually felt. Excuse me one sec. Here you go. Had to let my dog down. Milkshake. Anyway. So that was like really the main driving force behind, my just never ending quest for the next level. And what ended up happening was I hit burnout twice because I was exhausted. My job already, when you have a job where you're problem solving all day, right? On top of constantly learning something new, on top of everything, everything else that you have going on, in life. But I was exhausted, you know, and I just kept pushing through, and until like it just got to the point where I just really couldn't, I just didn't have the bandwidth for much at all, just outside of the basic functioning, that you need to survive, right? And yeah, me hitting burnout twice, you know, the first time I didn't know that that's what I was experiencing, right? Until later on, after learning about burnout and the signs and symptoms of it. So, come the second time around, when I hit a wall again and started experiencing these symptoms and was able to, you know, correlate how I was feeling more recently to how I felt before, I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely a pattern that is not good. I'm working too hard, right? So what ended up, happening was I ended up taking a career break in both instances, but this time around I'm doing things a bit differently. And but I want to talk about the actual moment where I really had a gut check with myself about what I was doing and why I was working so hard. So I ended up deciding to not only maintain a full-time job, but I decided to go to grad school and also to pursue getting one of the higher level certs that you can get within the cybersecurity industry, right? Now, why did I decide to do this? Especially when I already, working was already a lot. Well, I'll tell you why. Because when I realized that my job really wasn't a good fit for me, instead of just applying for another job, I said, you know what? I'm tired of this job hopping and just looking for another job. So I said, the next job I get, I'm swinging for the fence. I'm swinging for the fences, right? Because if I'm going to be working, if I'm going to work hard and give it my all, I might as well shoot for the stars, right? So that I can try to increase my income, income earning potential as much as possible, and go after it, and then that'll be it, right? Because at this point I'm tired. I'm just tired of all the things, right? The constant just trying to move up to that next level to achieve that next level. So I just resolved. I was like, you know what? Since I'm kind of done with the constant moving up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself look very attractive on a resume, right? I'm going to make myself so marketable for that next dream job, because I had yet to have a dream job, right? And I'm just looking for the job where I'm just finally like, yes, this is it. This is the one. And so that's what I did. I decided to go to grad school full time to get my master's degree, and I ended up studying for the certification in CISSP, which is a very difficult certification to achieve. And I did that. I did both the things. But what happened? This is what happened. This is the moment when I realized something had to change. I was middle of my grad school program. I was taking the most intense class in the whole program. It was very hard work, and one day I was just so exhausted, and I just said to myself, like, why am I putting myself through all of this? Why am I putting myself through all of this? And this isn't even really what I want to do. And that was the first time I had really, I think, really said it like out loud, like to myself, like, you doing all of this stuff, Kay, and you You're exhausted. I'm exhausted, right? You would never have known though from the outside looking in, because that's that high functioning, right? I was just getting it done. I was getting it done. I had the good job. I was living in a high cost of living area, decent apartment, everything was good. Yeah, but I ended up asking myself, like, yeah, nah, because I don't want to stay, in the career field that I was in, where I was living at in the DMV area. That's like one of the main, hubs for the, for government GovTech work. And I was like, nah, I don't. This ain't the life that I want. Like, and I just kind of saw it. It just kind of was just like not a daydream, but just like an image of, me kind of just staying in that area and just getting another, maybe landing a, really nice, high salary job, but just kind of just realizing that lifestyle was just not even what I wanted at all. And I said, okay, well, you've already started. You've already started this. You're going to have to go ahead and finish. You just go ahead and finish. And I did. I earned my master's degree. In the midst of all of that, I was able to, when I took some time off. I had to inflate my lifestyle just for just the essential, everyday stuff. But it was also, it was a lot to do, a lot of events, sporting events, just a lot of really nice places to eat and go out and stuff like that. And not saying I don't enjoy those things, but, and before I know it, I'm just going to probably be constantly overspending and just having money stress that I definitely didn't want to have. So, I made that decision for myself. I said, okay, finish, you've already got the cert. You've got the one, you've got it. Finish grad school. But once grad school is done, we got to make some changes. We got to figure out which way we're going. And that's exactly, what I did. And I say we like it's more than one person. I don't know why, but I had to figure out which way I wanted to go. And that's what I did. And, you're now seeing the end result of that, which is me currently taking a career break. And I'm just about 3 months in to my career break. It's been about almost 3 months since I quit my job, and to take a step back and hit reset. Right now, I'm prioritizing rest and recovery from burnout, and I'm also just helping my mom with her recovery. She just had a major back surgery, and so I'm helping with a little bit of caregiving responsibilities there. But outside of just, helping, being here for my family and just taking a break, when I am ready to step back in the working world, I'm definitely doing things differently. I decided to reject the hustle culture altogether, reject the 9 to 5, corporate culture, altogether. And I'm exploring, solopreneurship, whether it's being able to make, side income from YouTube, while also sharing my story and my experiences in hopes of, helping you, some of you who may be experiencing burnout and just kind of ready to make a change in your life, or, starting my own business, being self-employed, solopreneurship, which is a term that's actually fairly new to me. After taking some time to really sit down and learn different ways that I can earn a living for myself outside of what I had known traditionally of what, entrepreneurship is. I realized you don't have to do things the traditional blueprint to success tells you. That's not the only way you can be successful. So this is a time where I'm finally truly betting on myself in this process. I planned my exit. I saved up my FU fund, which is, money that you save up and set aside for if you find yourself without a job, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. In my case, it was voluntarily, just as a cash cushion to get you through however long you decide to take a career break for. I've, set myself up to position myself, as a self-employed individual, still working in tech, but definitely moving away from the government sector, and trying to forge my way into the private sector. And just I've taken the necessary steps to kind of set the foundation for that, and then I'll begin working towards that once I'm ready to re-enter the workforce. And aspirations to live abroad, because ultimately we're in pursuit of three things. I'm in pursuit of three things here. I keep saying we, like, I don't know why I'm referring to myself like third person or something, right? We, I am in pursuit of time, location, and financial freedom, right? And the location freedom, just being able to work remotely. It's as simple as that. That's what I want. But be able to do it from anywhere in the world. And I have my sights set on Portugal at the moment. And so just, silently, building, working up towards that. So just for you listening to this video, if you, find yourself questioning what you're working so hard for, like if you can't pinpoint, outside of the obvious, maybe providing for yourself and your family, right? But as far as like the career path you're on, if you find yourself setting these goals and hitting these goals and still feeling empty and unfulfilled in doing so, pay attention to that. That's an indication that you definitely need to be doing something different. Give me 1 second. If you can't really, if I were to walk up to you and ask you, where do you see yourself, in 5 years, or what's the next option for you as far as the next step in your career, right? If you're given the generic answer, the one that makes sense without really tapping into how you really feel about it, or if that's really what you want to do, take heed that's probably that's a good indication that you're in the same spot that I was in, and you're most likely in need of a change, right? So, and I just want to let you know, just ultimately, that if you are feeling this way, you're successful on paper. You've done everything right. You followed the blueprint. You've hit all of the milestones that you were supposed to hit, and you ultimately still feel unhappy about it, or unfulfilled, or even empty, right? You're not broken, right? That's the hustle call. We're just told that this is what success is, and that success equals happiness, right? But it's not always the case, especially when you're not following the path that you wanted to follow, and you're just following the path that was set out, put out in front of you. It just made the most sense, right? So you're not broken, you're not alone, but it's time to start auditing yourself and asking yourself those questions on what it is you really want in life and out of life. All right, so if you are, a high achieving, high performing millennial that's been following the traditional path to success, and you're still feeling like there has to be more to life, right? Check out my latest video where I talk about why I started this channel for high performing, burnt out millennials, because if anything in this video resonated with you, you'll definitely there's definitely some information in that will most likely resonate with you as well. And my name is Kayosha, and I'm here to remind you to choose yourself, because that is ultimate wealth. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Take care.